Hello everyone, this is Ranger Chris inviting you to join us in observing National Park Week, April 22nd to the 30th. During this special week, we celebrate the many ways that national park sites enrich our lives by connecting us with our environment, our history, and each other. This year, we celebrate our national park stories. These stories may be special personal memories from our time in parks or experiences of the people from the past that have moved us. Each day this week spotlights a different story theme, an intangible way national park sites help us experience and appreciate our nation and our world. On Tuesday, April 25th, we celebrate tradition. At Gateway Arch National Park, we recognize the African American people who helped to settle the West and the traditions that were special to them. Much of our nation was built on the backs of enslaved people.
Image of slaves changed.
They were brutally torn from their homes in Africa, suffered unspeakable horrors during a weeks-long ocean crossing, and then spent their lives in back-breaking toil for which they received no reward. They lived in constant fear of terrible violence at the hands of the people who claimed the right to own them. They often saw their loved ones cruelly ripped from them, never to be seen again.
Drawing of slaves being auctioned off.
On top of all of these atrocities, the enslaved people had their traditions stolen from them. Their owners encouraged them to adopt their customs and religion. They replaced their traditional stories with stories from the Bible.
Photo of a book opened.
The people who had come from Africa struggled to hold on to their old beliefs, rituals, and songs. But as the generations passed, these traditions began to fade. In some cases, they merged the old ways with the culture that was being forced upon
Drawing
them.
of people working in fields.
This allowed fragments of the music, dance, and spirituality of the old world to survive and be passed down. The African American people of the antebellum period found the Exodus story in the Old Testament especially compelling. They identified with the Israelites being held in bondage in Egypt. They found inspiration and hope in the story of Moses leading his people to freedom.
Portrait of Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman, who helped enslaved people escape to freedom, was called the Moses of her time.
Photo of dead soldiers.
The divisions over slavery in the United States eventually led to civil war. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the enslaved people in the regions that were actively in rebellion against the United States. The news of the proclamation came slowly to the people that it affected. In the western state of Texas, it wasn't until June 19, 1865, 2 months after the surrender at Appomattox, that enslaved people were informed that they had been freed. The African American people in Texas dubbed this momentous occasion Juneteenth and began to celebrate the day as an annual holiday.
Image of a soldier writing.
The tradition of Juneteenth began to spread across the South and through African American communities. When the 13th Amendment formally ended slavery in the United States, many formerly enslaved people left the South, where they had been so oppressed, to seek new lives in the West. Once again, they evoked the traditions of the Exodus story. They compared themselves to the Israelites journeying to the Promised Land. They called themselves Exodusters, and the American West became their Promised Land,
of people in a
where
town.
they could live a life of freedom and observe their traditions without interference. National parks are the perfect places to learn about people from history who had to summon the bravery and perseverance to struggle against great injustice. At Gateway Arch National Park, we tell the stories of the people who fled the horrors of slavery and sought a life of freedom in the West. They brought their traditions to their new home, including the tradition of Juneteenth, which is now a national holiday. Their stories changed America. What's your park story?